Happy, happy Halloween, Halloween, Halloween. Happy, happy Halloween, Silver Shamrock. Happy, happy Halloween, Halloween, Halloween. Happy, happy Halloween, Silver Shamrock.
Hey everybody, MichaelBtheGameGenie here, and today we're going to be looking at some great Super Nintendo games for Halloween.
Goodbye.
Happy almost Halloween everybody, and happy Halloween Havoc. Unfortunately, this is going to be the last video I get to do this month. I didn't get to do as many videos as I hoped, but it was a ton of work. I made 3 reviews and 3 video game nostalgias all in a very short amount of time. So I tried my best to do as much as I could, and I hope you guys enjoyed what I did get to do for you. So today is going to be the last video, and we're going to be talking about great Super Nintendo games to play for Halloween. Of the games I'm going to be discussing today, I really only owned one of them growing up, but it's a good one. And the other 2 games, I've owned both of them, and they're both great, but they're not games I was ever very good at. But they're all excellent games that I'm so excited to share with you today. And let's take a look at the first one. No Infinite continues, and you still have to beat it twice? Man, screw this game. Well, I am only half kidding, of course. I have a long and storied history with Super Ghouls and Ghosts, a long and painful history. It's the only game I will be covering in this video that I have had since I was a kid, and it's haunted me since I was a kid. Because of the super spoopy atmosphere? Well, no, it's haunted me because of the difficulty. I mean, like, who thought it would be a good idea to take away the Infinite Continues? Like, really, do you enjoy tormenting children, you sadist? No Infinite Continues has always been my sticking point with this game. Fun fact, this was the first ever game I got from Toys R Us. We didn't have one growing up, and when I was 13 and on a trip to visit my aunt in Toronto, we went to Toys R Us, and 2 games were on sale for $40, Turtles in Time and Super Ghouls and Ghosts. I mean, I really wanted Turtles, but I had beat it before, and even though Super Ghouls and Ghosts box art was kinda shitty, okay, really shitty, I hadn't beat that game. Little did I know that I would be sitting here 25 years later, still not having finished Super Ghouls and Ghosts, and I probably never will. The Ghouls and Ghosts series always gets talked about for its absolutely insane difficulty and unfairness with having to finish the game twice, but what often goes unsaid is how pretty and gothic the games are, and the Super Nintendo game is a perfect example of this. Before we get too far into graphics and art, I want to talk about the simple but perfect opening. I mentioned it in my last review, but I love games openings, and this one, while simple, does something special. I love seeing Arthur running to the castle while the fireworks go off in the distance. We next see a view of the castle from the woods, and as lightning cracks, more and more demons appear. We press start after changing the difficulty to beginner, wink wink, and are greeted by some laughable mode 7 as something approaches the castle. Finally, a devil smashes through the window and takes the princess, and it's off to adventure. First thing first, the art design in this game is incredible. I mean, look at all the detail, not just in the foreground of the wooded graveyard, but the scrolling background as well. I mean, it is absolutely gorgeous and perfect for Halloween. Take a minute and enjoy it. Don't worry about getting distracted because you are going to die anyways, so might as well enjoy it. The character and enemy design is great too, and for some reason I have never thought it has looked better and more beautiful than it does on the Super Nintendo. The boss enemies exemplify this as well, such as the giant bird. That is beautiful. Too bad the easiest way to kill it is to throw your weapon at it while it's off screen, and you don't really see it much. Also, the added colors of the Super Nintendo really play a factor here as the game is vibrant and jumping off the screen. The level design is spectacular and all new from other games. This is its own game and designed specifically for its attributes. What I mean specifically is the double jump, and this new mechanic has been added and is instrumental in progressing as the game has been designed to force this. Personally, I find it frustrating at times and would much prefer the ability to shoot my weapon up and down, but what do I know? I've been stuck in the second part of the second level since I was 13 years old. That was until tonight and this capture session when I finally bested stage 2. Oh baby, on to stage 3, and then the rest of the game, unless I run across a very difficult stage and then a near unbeatable enemy. Hello, Red Devil. Well, I will come back to this again someday. And speaking of the Red Devil, if I fawn all over the gothic art styles of Super Ghouls and Ghosts, get ready to have your face melted off by Demon's Crest. What I mean by that is this game is hot. And it shows you that right off the start with a blank screen until the first ember trickles into view. The camera starts to pan down as we see more and more embers until we are greeted by a full wall of fire. My guess is Hell's Fire, but I'm not an expert. A shadow appears in the wall of fire that looks like a demon or gargoyle, with its wings covering its body like a cape. As the wings come out, exposing a bat-like shape, parts of the creature are lost to the fire, and these lost parts eventually spell Demon's Crest, while the epic music perfectly fits what's unfolding on the screen. Man, I just need to say that hands down this is one of the absolute coolest intro scenes, not just on the Super Nintendo, but all of gaming. The game then provides a little bit of the story, how the Red Demon, which is Firebrand I guess, was the victor of the battle for the 6 Demon Stones, but at a high price. You are attacked by Phalanx. No, not one and the same. Who steals the crest from the Red Demon and takes over the human and demon realms. I mean, it's a story. I am not that familiar with this franchise, so it seems okay I guess. When I said I wasn't familiar with the series, I really meant it because I could not figure out how this game controls when I bought it. I was lucky and got my copy 8 years ago for around $25, which you would be extremely lucky to find it for nowadays. I guess I expected it to be a standard platformer, and it really isn't. You attack by shooting a fireball, you also have claws that allow you to cling to the wall, and your wings let you hover, and you will need to use all these elements in the game. Something I may have been familiar with if I had played Gargoyle's Quest, or the sequel on the NES, but I hadn't, which leaves me a little lost. I honestly am not very good at this game and question whether I should include it, but it's just so damn pretty and visually stunning that I had to, and in this capture session, I did better than I ever did before. I was even successful in obtaining the first stone, the Crest of Earth, that let me turn into another gargoyle that has a more ground-based approach, and greatly piqued my interest in the game. So the map is something. Typical Super Nintendo Mode 7 RPG map, but flying on this one so quickly kinda makes me motion sick and I have no idea where to go, so I randomly pick some level. You're immediately immersed into a different world and atmosphere, no matter where you land on the map, and they are all beautiful and drawn so well. I don't know if this is where I should be, but I'm having fun exploring, and of course I'm not limited with my continues, so I have the freedom to do so. At least you got this one right in that aspect, Capcom. I really also want to talk about the boss fights in the game, and there seems to be a lot of them fast and furious. I mean, we start out going one-on-one with that giant dragon with no warning and little to no indication on how to play the game. Trial by fire, which is fitting seeing the opening. It's a fun fight and actually gives a glimpse into how the game controls and just how badass it's going to be. After you beat him, you move on to the next stage, and no, it's not over, as he sticks his head through the wall and the fight continues. After another hit, he is vanquished, and you are treated to a pretty gruesome death scene. In fact, your own death scene is pretty gruesome as well, and you will do it a lot, so glad they didn't cheap out. This game will definitely be getting more of my attention in the future. Okay, so this is for those whip purists I mentioned in my Super Castlevania review, as now we talk about the Castlevania game on the Super Nintendo that reverts back to the original controls. I've always been down on this game for a couple reasons. One was the insane last fight, but we will come back to that. Mainly it was the fact that I always wrongly considered this to be a poor port of the TurboGrafx CD game that was only released in Japan, also called Castlevania Dracula X, but the title was even longer, including the subline, Rondo of Blood. It's taken me a lot of years to realize this wasn't a poor port, but essentially a remake or a different game. I mean, of all the other Castlevania games I have played, this one is probably the least cinematic in terms of its opening. I mean, Castlevania flies in, and we get 2 cut marks to form an X, and some blood pours out under Dracula. Sure, that's cool, but it's also pretty underwhelming, seeing what we are used to from the series, and especially knowing the awesome start to the Japanese Turbo CD game. If you do leave the title page lingering, you will get the story to scroll across the screen while some still images appear in the background to help with the story, but these are nothing special in my opinion. What is the greatest insult is that when you finally press start to start the game, you are immediately thrust onto the castle map, and then the first level starts. Are you kidding me? No epic scene at the castle gates of Richter brandishing his whip? Talk about lame. Thankfully, this is where the lameness stops, as the game starts and you are hit with some classic Castlevania goodness. Like I mentioned earlier, gone are the controls of Super Castlevania 4 for those who didn't like them, and we have returned to the more traditional style where the whip only goes one way and you have to press up and attack to throw your sub-weapon. What you will notice is the speed with which your character moves, because it feels like you are playing Castlevania on fast forward at times. I guess the developers took it to heart when people said the last Super Nintendo game moved slow because they amped this up like crazy. I mean, I would hate to see how fast this would play on the Sega Genesis, because I would imagine it would be very hard to control, and in fact, I find the Super Nintendo game a little hard to control at times, as you can tell by all my poor attempts in the gameplay here to whip a candle while jumping. I shouldn't be this shitty at it. The game looks and sounds great. Is it as good as the epic PC Engine CD game from Japan? Well, no, but of course it's not, and that is the last time I will mention it, because outside of the story, characters, and use of some of the music, this is essentially a different game. The game starts off with a fiery background, and you know what? It looks pretty darn good on the Super Nintendo, and what a bright start for the game. The enemies look great, and I'll concede, almost a step up from Super Castlevania 4. I really am impressed with the job they did here on the music, as this track sounds just as good on the Super Nintendo as it did using CD audio, so great job. I have never been particularly good at this game, but I must have had magic brewing during this capture session, because I beat a couple boss fights that were surprisingly easy, and got much farther than I ever had before. Weird, because I always heard this game was extremely difficult, and I was never very good at it before. I have beat it though, of course by cheating. Again, I'm the Game Genie, and you know what? I don't feel bad about it with this game. I mean, the Dracula fights are usually legendary in these games, but this one is something else. I had to use a password to get me to the last level, just so I could show you this fight, because it has to be seen to be believed. It's that same difficult appear-and-shoot Dracula fight we have been having for years, but with damn pitfalls. You know, one hit and you're done pitfalls. You know, one misstep and you're done pitfalls. I don't know what they were thinking. This is worse than giving limited continues. Well, maybe. I have the feeling that I won't beat this game, but I had a lot of fun playing it, and what a great game to play during Halloween. So guys, those are just some great Super Nintendo games that I think fit perfectly for Halloween. And the funny thing about all of them is I am terrible at every one. I've never really done anything outside of beating Castlevania Dracula X with the Game Genie at one point. But other than that, I mean, these games are all so very, very hard, but they're all beautiful. And they really catch the Halloween spirit. They have such spooky atmospheres, and the artwork's incredible, the gameplay is good. These are all amazing games to play for Halloween. And I hope you guys at least should try one or two of them. I know they're all a little bit on the pricey side, except for Super Ghouls and Ghosts. But you know what? Emulation's pretty prevalent nowadays, so should be no excuse to go out and try them if you want to, whether it be an EverDrive, flash card, mod your SNES Classic, something. These games are available and you can go play them, and I definitely think you should, because they're all perfect for Halloween, and they're all really, really good, challenging games. If you're a person that likes a challenge, these are all the games that are for you. Anyways, guys, thank you so much for joining me for Halloween Havoc this year. It's been a blast. It was a ton of work. I mean, a ton for me. You gotta think about it. I usually get one video done a month. I'm a dad, you know, I've got a young 2-year-old daughter, I've got a wife, I've got a busy life, but I love Halloween and I always wanted to make it special. I didn't get to do much the last couple of years, so I'm really excited I got to do so much this year, and thank you for joining me. I hope you all really enjoyed it. Anyways, I'm going to be taking a little bit of a break from YouTube right now. It's my birthday on the 25th, so just passed, and I got some stuff I want to catch up with in my life, so I'll be taking a short break, and you know, keep in touch with me on social media, keep in touch with me, and who knows when I'll be back with a new video for you guys all again. Thank you very much for watching Halloween Havoc. Thank you very much for joining my channel, and we'll talk to you again real soon. Hey there! Thank you for making it to the very end of the video. If you enjoyed the video, why don't you check out one of the other videos shown here? If you really enjoyed the video, you can even subscribe to my YouTube channel. And of course, if you really, really enjoyed the video, feel free to check out my Patreon. It would be appreciated.